Our company is called Opzi. We're the latest company to come out of Y Combinator, and we're really proud to announce our first product here at TechCrunch Disrupt. So what we're building is a Quora for the enterprise. So we take the power of a Q&A site, meld it with the flexibility of wikis to create a really organically growing, really easily searchable knowledge base for the enterprise. Let me tell you about why this problem matters to me. This problem is pretty close to my heart. So I was a Cornell CS grad, and earned my JD from Cornell Law School, spent a couple of years as a big law attorney in New York City. And at the firm, I was really frustrated by having always not the problem of trying to find who the right person was to ask for, trying to solve a specific issue. And I always ran into this problem of not being able to know what other people already knew. I found myself repeating work, making mistakes. And the root cause of this was simply because all the knowledge was siloed. It was siloed in emails, IMs, conversations. There was no good knowledge base. So this is what we're building. Enough talk, let's skip right to the demo. So someone at a company signs up for Opzi using their corporate email address, which we then verify. Once they're in, they get popped into the main Q&A site. At the really basic use case, Opzi can be used like a collaborative Evernote. For example, internally, we use this system to archive notes like what are the most common commands for Git. But obviously, the power of this site is magnified when other people come on and answer questions. So a question like, what features should we highlight here today at Disrupt? For example, will yield very many interesting answers from within the company. So let's run through some of the other features that we have over here at Opzi. Our wiki feature allows for easy crowdsourcing of answers. And from the networks we've run, we've noticed that this has led to great questions like, where did everyone go to college? Or where's everyone from? And notice this material is very easily searchable. We have a voting mechanic that allows people to stand behind and endorse certain answers, which is very important in the enterprise context. We have an anonymous feature, which is very interesting in the enterprise context as well. This is different from the consumer side anonymity, because in the enterprise context, certainly there is already an implicit amount of trust within people. So what anonymous means in this context is that it allows for people to ask questions that maybe they thought was a little bit stupid, but really are important, because these are the most common mistakes that are made over and over again. And lastly, we have a very fast, very powerful search engine that allows people to find previous answers to questions that they have already. So notice that everything that we have, unlike a wiki, which is all segmented into separate documents, all our content is organized around questions. So what you're looking at is our web platform. Certainly, our story doesn't end there. We know that people in companies live in their Outlook email boxes, and so that's where we'd like to interact and integrate with them. So we allow people to ask questions directly by email, answer them directly by replying to an email. And in fact, we actually integrate right on top of listservs. We extract relevant content, like questions, and put them in our searchable index. Another thing we're working on is also working on the ability to intelligently route questions directly via email to people that we think are the most suitable candidates for providing a response in the company. So there are many interesting use cases for what we're building here. You can imagine in an engineering company, you could use this like a mini internal Stack Overflow for documenting bugs and solutions. You can use it and deploy it within a Salesforce or a large customer service team to document the little fires that come out over and over again. Put it in law firms and consulting firms where you're paying employees a high amount, but you'd like to retain the intellectual capital that they're building over time. The sky's kind of the limit for the platform. We'd like to spend the next few weeks nailing the Q&A platform. We have many interesting features still baking. We're a young team. We don't sleep much. We recently closed a seed round with some of the Silicon Valley's best investors, like SV Angel, First Round, SoftTech, and Paul Buchheit. We're in private beta right now, and we've had thousands of signups on our wait list, and we're looking to activate our networks one by one as we go. So you can go to our website, www.opzi.com, and put yourself on the list. Or if you really can't wait, send me an email at beta@opzi.com, and we'll get you signed up. So Opzi's mission is to help people at companies share knowledge. And our eventual goal is to become the first place that someone at a large company turns to when they're looking for answers. Thank you.
With a minute left to go, I mean,
Yeah.
impressive. Keith?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on escaping corporate law and becoming an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
It's refreshing.
Hey.
All three of us, probably 3 of the 4 people who've done it. But in any event, what do you think the individual value proposition is for like the first user in a company?
For the first user in a company, I think it's the individual, the Evernote sense, where you can actually log in and put stuff that you yourself refer to internally. We're only a company of 2, and we actually use it internally. And it's great, because it's fast, it's searchable, and we know that the material is there when we add more team members, so that we're doing our work and saving our butts for future.
Because, I mean, I asked this question because back when I was at LinkedIn, CIOs would call us all the time and ask us to build something like this for the enterprise, which means there is a market, clearly. But on the other hand, they were all frustrated because everything they bought for the last 20 years, none of the employees would use, except at management consulting companies like Bain, BCG, McKinsey, would use it. But at every other company, the CIO was frustrated because they'd spend all this money and nobody would use it.
That's our angle. I think one of our theories is to build enterprise software like consumer software, to build something that people really want to use. And so we do have some features lined up, very interesting features that will cater towards a single player use case. So that's immediately useful, because to have achieved the network effects we want, we need to go from 5 to 10 to 50, and we can't skip that first step. We know that the product works great in a big network of a few hundred people, but to get to that point, we need features that will make it more useful at the smaller stages.
One of the things that's always impressed me about Quora is the density of participation really drives a belief that the system can create the right answer. How do you create the right incentives to have local market density? On Quora, if there's a question that doesn't have a lot of density, the answers are pretty bad and there just isn't a lot of velocity around the participation. And here you're going to end up with much smaller groups because it's inside of an enterprise.
Right.
So you got to have mass participation among a very small group. How do you make that happen?
It's very interesting, because I think that's a problem that takes care of itself within the context of enterprise. There is a limited set of professional questions that you can ask. We're not trying to compete with Quora at all. They're out to document knowledge in the entire universe. We're only trying to document knowledge within the firm environment. And you can go even smaller than that. We can deploy the solution within a smaller team. So just the marketing team or the engineering team. So by limiting the scope of who participates and giving a context towards for the network, it really helps achieve some sort of critical mass and question density.
Is it all organic adoption, or do you plan to sell this with the direct sales force into the enterprise?
Right now, we're looking at actually, organically growing within the teams at big companies, but we're kind of open to any kind of model that makes sense.
So I would agree there's a huge market opportunity here. I think the flip side of that is a lot of enterprise collaboration and enterprise software players are trying to build applications to solve this because they actually have access to the richest sources of siloed information, as you put it. So what is your source of information? How do you search? Because it's hard to go in over the top and then try to penetrate these different siloed sources. So how do you actually access that information to answer questions?
Our approach is to build this layer on top of other information. We know that as a young company, it's very hard for us to want to directly integrate with all these different silos that they already have. That might be our eventual where we end up. But for now, it's really easy for us to deploy at a large company because there is no integration. All the information is user-generated and hosted in a secure way by us. And so we make it very light and easy to get started. And once we have employees turning to us to be the first place where they look to, that gives us leverage into the other, to integrate with the other silos of information, whether it's email or SharePoint or whatever.
What do you think your value proposition is vis-a-vis Yammer?
I think Yammer is looking to build an enterprise social network. I don't think that's what we're trying to do at all. We certainly focus on the social elements within an enterprise, but the problem we're trying to solve is search almost, in a sense, a different take on enterprise search. We're trying to give people a tool to solve problems, which might be a little different than building a social collaboration platform.
Well, I think one of the reasons that he may have asked that question is a lot of the information, going back to that people expose about themselves voluntarily is through communications and through their social networks. So then asking them to opt in to yet another application when they have competing applications already for their time, Outlook being one of them, or email, it's competing for the time. So.
Right. And that's where we start. And so once we get some sort of usage going, we'd like to integrate with other platforms that allow us to. whether it's Jive or Yammer or whatever other platforms that people are already using to communicate.
Any final words? We've still got a minute left.
Yeah, I think
How do you reach out to folks at the enterprise? How do you get the word out?
Right here today, actually. I mean,
Well,
we get signups. And
no, how do you get folks, passionate about this? And
to convert, I think what we'd like to do is get some sort of ground level support from the enterprise by opening up to users to sign up just with their corporate email. I think we can demonstrate a bit of the value proposition. And obviously, I don't think that's the end of the story. I think once we get a seed level usage going in the company, that gives us the leverage to go up there and talk to the CKO or someone in charge and really find a leader and a very promoter of the service within the company to make it more sticky.
I think the biggest issue you're going to run into is IT departments who say, my company's confidential information is being stored on a third-party server, and my employees adopted this organically. I don't have control over this. So that's something to think about as you scale into the opportunity beyond startups into larger enterprises.
Right, and we look forward to that challenge. I mean, that would be a good problem to have, I think.
Perfect. And we're out of time. So round of applause for Opzi. So we come to the end of the final pitch of the day. Now this is the audience choice. This is the one that you've been voting for out in the demo pit all day. So bear in mind they weren't necessarily expecting to be on stage today.